Imagine an elderly lady of leisure with nothing on her schedule who decides to send a postcard to her niece in Bognor Regis. In theory, this is a 3-minute task, but because she has the entire day, the task expands. She spends an hour hunting for her spectacles, another hour searching for the address, and 90 minutes drafting and revising the text. Then comes the agonizing debate over whether or not to take an umbrella to the mailbox. By the evening, a task that should take minutes leaves her entirely exhausted. This psychological reality leads to a strict, observable rule. Work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. The historian C. Northcote Parkinson formalized this observation in 1955. He recognized that the same mechanics governing a single person's afternoon also dictate the growth of global institutions. It is highly logical for a taxpayer or a corporate shareholder to assume that a growing staff means a growing volume of work. If an agency hires 1,000 new clerks, we naturally think they must have 1,000 new things to do. They do not. The number of administrative officials on a payroll and the actual quantity of work required to run an operation are entirely unrelated. To trace exactly how this happens, we have to look at the psychology of a single civil servant. Let's call him Official A. One day, Official A begins to feel completely overworked. Whether this exhaustion is real or entirely imagined does not matter. Official A has 3 choices. He can resign, he can ask to share his workload with a lateral colleague, let's call him B, or he can demand the assistance of 2 new subordinates, C and D. He will never choose to share power with B, because B is a rival. He chooses the subordinates. By splitting the work between 2 junior men, Official A prevents either of them from replacing him. He becomes the only person in the room who comprehends both halves of the job, instantly elevating his own status. Eventually, Official C will inevitably feel overworked too. When he complains, Official A will advise hiring 2 assistants, E and F, to help C. But to avert internal friction and maintain the balance of office power, he must also grant 2 assistants to D. We now have 7 people doing what 1 person used to do. Here is where the trap closes. These 7 officials now make work for each other. A single incoming document falls to F, who drafts a reply for C, who amends it and sends it to D, who asks G to review it, who hands it to H, who revises it again before it ever reaches Official A. By the time Official A finally reviews the document, he works late into the evening correcting the grammar of his 6 subordinates. He is working harder than ever to produce the exact same result, returning to his suburban home drained by the penalties of success. If you multiply Official A by thousands, you get the modern state. And the clearest historical proof of this comes from the British Admiralty. This chart compares the physical combat assets of the Royal Navy in 1914 and 1928. Following the end of the First World War, the actual fighting strength of the military plunged. They saw a 67% drop in active capital ships and a massive 31.5% drop in sailors and officers. But the administrative staff sitting at desks back in Whitehall did not shrink. Over that exact same period, the number of Admiralty officials grew by nearly 80%. This data table from Parkinson's original research shows the exact percentage shifts. For every fighting asset the Navy lost, they gained more clerks, draftsmen, and administrators to manage a fleet that no longer existed. We see the exact same pattern in the Colonial Office. Between 1935 and 1954, British colonial territories were steadily shrinking as successive colonies achieved self-government. The physical empire was disappearing, yet the central administrative staff operating out of London exploded from 372 people to over 1,600. The evidence is conclusive. An administrative body will multiply its own staff entirely independent of the size, scope, or even the existence of the empire it governs. These extreme hiring spikes did not happen by accident. They were the predictable result of human nature. This formula represents Parkinson's calculation of organizational growth. It maps the internal circulation of paperwork and the promotion of subordinates to find the exact rate of bureaucratic accumulation. The math yields a highly specific result. Any public administrative department that is not actively engaged in a war will inevitably increase its staff by an average of 5.17 to 6.56% every single year, and that annual growth rate is locked in. It happens if the actual volume of necessary work increases. It happens if the volume of work decreases. It even happens if the work completely disappears. Bureaucratic bloat is a scientific law of human nature. We must stop asking what work an organization is doing and realize it is simply growing to sustain itself.